Welcome, everybody. My name is Phoebe Morad. I'm Executive Director of Lutherans Restoring Creation. And if we haven't met yet, I am glad that you're here. If you're watching in the future, I'm also grateful that you're part of our network now. And as we start and get settled, and there are still people coming in, which is lovely from all these different corners of the planet. Again, because we are from so many different corners of the planet, Lutherans Restoring Creation has, we have not a land acknowledgement as much as a knowledge acknowledgement. We would invite you, if you can think about, if you have not explored yet who the original Earth Keepers are on where you stand, then please do so. Please find that out and learn more stories. But as I open us up, I'm going to tell you basically our statement of the fact that we weren't the first that thought about caring for creation. Long before Luther nailed anything on any doors, there were people caring for creation. As we live, work, and worship in the land that is now called the United States, Lutherans Restoring Creation recognize that we do so on land that was stolen from Indigenous peoples. As we are called to restore creation, we are also called to restore right relationship with one another. As we join in this holy vocation of loving our neighbor, we honor all our Indigenous siblings who have been companions of the land, water, and beings of Turtle Island since time immemorial. We charge our community to learn about the original and continuous stewards of the land upon which we exist. We lament legacies of violence, cultural genocide, and displacement of Indigenous communities, committing ourselves to hearing and speaking the truth of that history and its ongoing effects. May we gather faithfully in mind, body, and spirit, so that we may mend what has been broken and embody Christ's gospel of an abundant life. And as I open with that too, on that message, I would like to remind you that the day of mourning is coming up. As others are also celebrating Thanksgiving, there is also a day of mourning that has been acknowledged and recognized for, this will be its 54th year in the Patuxent area, which is close to where I live. I'm going to put in the chat a interest form, because there are a few of us that will be gathering in the Patuxent area, now known as Plymouth, Massachusetts, on the 27th. And if anybody wants to join us, I will be in touch with you. But also, if you're interested in what you can do as a community in solidarity with that, we would like to hear from you and help you consider that and just know what's up. So with that, right now, though, I would like to, for one thing, also recognize kind of the looming cloud. I think I'm glad to see everybody's faces. I hope those of you who are not on screen can do so later when we have breakout rooms. I feel like this is a time that we really need each other, regardless of the topic. And thank you, Danielle, for being here to share a lot of great education. I feel like simply being together in this weird digital way, but in spirit especially, is somehow counter to the storm that is going on. And all of you might have your personal storms going on. I just want to recognize that while we are focused on maybe one particular subject, the idea that Gabrielle will help illustrate with a great graphic, that all of these justice-oriented activities, there's not a hierarchy of them. They're all intersecting, and if there are so many different problems that are creating this storm, there are also so many different solutions that can create a bomb. So, and that's BALM. Yeah. So over to you, Gabrielle, to share some of that beautiful imagery.
Great. Okay. I know we have many different networks represented in the room tonight. And I know that the video I'm about to show you was, I originally shared it on a joint call with the World Hunger Leaders, many of which who are here tonight, and our own Lutherans Restoring Creation Network. And I know there are other networks represented on this call too. So this is a brief illustration of a scripture that's really important to us. And when we think about how do we live as people of faith, and then also all the ways that we might do that and all the different injustices that we might face. So we just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're going to explain this acronym of MERGE. All right. Great. So short and sweet, MERGE, migrant, environmental, racial, gender, and economic justice. These things do not take away from each other, but rather whenever we activate one of these issues, all of these other issues are like strings attached. They all vibrate.
That's another beautiful, that added a sound to the illustration. Thank you, Gabrielle. So next, I'm really excited to invite Danielle Robidoux to share with us. I had the pleasure of meeting Danielle in person, I guess almost a year ago. It was last winter, I believe, where Equal Exchange happens to be near where I live. So I got to go to an amazing coffee tasting event. And yes, I was drawn by the food and the coffee. I did not expect to get such a wonderful education as well. And something honestly that gave me hope. I know that there was a lot wrong with our food system, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And to have Danielle be able to share as part of the work that they do, not only working with incredible people and serving incredible food, to be able to share, what all our role in it, not just as consumers, but also as thoughtful, wonderful pieces of the economy we can build together. So Danielle, if that's okay, I will hand it over to you, and hopefully you have rights to share your screen. Let me make you co-host. I bet that would help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much, Phoebe, for inviting me to speak. My name is Danielle Robidoux. I work for Equal Exchange. I've been working at Equal Exchange for about 9 years. I came to kind of wanting to work at Equal Exchange and do this work from a school trip that I went on. So I was actually able to go to Nicaragua, which is I'll talk about in a second. Also, Equal Exchange's first product that they sold was coffee from Nicaragua during the Reagan administration and embargo against Nicaragua. So I was able to kind of see, what's a fair trade farm look like? What is a Whole Foods farm? What is the difference really between, a fair trade product and then a not fair trade product? And so ever since, I've always loved Equal Exchange, and I went on to, study with my master's in international relations and economic development, had a kind of focus on Latin America. Equal Exchange has a very long history with churches as well. So some of our strongest partners have been, our church partners like yourself, Lutherans for sure. And our second have been food co-ops. So really, Latin American solidarity movements really started. And even some of our partnerships and people that we still work with came from, churches connecting us when they were doing mission work abroad. So we have a shared history of traveling to Latin America. With that, I'm going to try and share here my screen, and hold on 1 second here. Okay. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Screen, but not my notes.
Right. It's like dark on either side. That's
okay. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Not at this point that I really need my notes. I could probably recite all of this stuff from, like the back of my hand, but it's always helpful to have some reminders. So just to look at kind of our agenda here, I'm just going to cover a little bit of equal exchange history. We do have a deep history and a longstanding one. We're the first fair trade, organization to import any fair trade products. So actually, I want us to, everyone knows what fair trade is, right? Like everybody's like kind of familiar with fair trade, or does it feel like maybe helpful to go into what that might be?
I think it's mixed reactions.
Okay.
Maybe a
Yeah.
quickie. Yeah, we might
Yeah,
assume
so
too much.
basically, fair trade started in like the late 80s and early 90s. It was really like designed for consumers. So it's a label that you'll see on products. You probably will see, I don't have a picture of the label, but if you look up, fair trade label, you would probably recognize it. But it was really just so that folks could see that label and really just understand that the product was ensuring basic human rights for workers, certain price minimum, environmental standards being respected, and that also was being audited by a third party. So not just, hey, we think we're doing great and we're going to slap this label on it. No, someone else is kind of verifying that. So that's just like kind of like the cliff notes. So we'll talk a little bit about equal exchange's history. And then from the beginning, we're really always been committed to small scale farmers. That's really where this work started. Equal Exchange is also a worker co-op, so I'll talk a little bit about what that means. And then, so what I usually do with these presentations is just talk about Equal Exchange's model and how it's really different from what's conventionally out there in every way, and then really talk about the context that Phoebe was mentioning of just, hey, this is the context that we're trying to survive in. It's just, these are all the things that are wrong with our food system, but Equal Exchange is really trying to provide an alternative path so that really justice is infused through all parts of our model, when it from seed to cup, or from the farmer until it gets to you. So yeah, with that, I'm just going to go to my next slide here. So Equal Exchange started in 1986, I mentioned. So it was started by three friends named Rank, Jonathan, and Michael. They were part of the co-op distribution warehouse in New England. They were really just like, classic story of something starting up, just like in a basement, just discussing like, what if we could trade food in a way that was honest and fair, and that respected all people along all parts of our supply chain, from the worker here to the farmer abroad, right? Because I'm pretty sure, we can always go down the street and, chat with our farmers who are growing kale and different things that might grow locally to us. But I'm pretty sure it's a lot harder for us to visit coffee farmers, banana farmers. These are tropical products. They only grow between the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer. So how can we like kind of infuse that same sense of justice in these products that are kind of growing further away? And so that was kind of like the question that they were starting to ask. And so before fair trade, was even a thing, or there wasn't any, organic labeling and like all of this kind of stuff, that we're also familiar with now. They were really asking a question like, how do we also make this easy for consumers? So Equal Exchange imported in 1986 against many people's wishes at the time, because there was an embargo against Nicaragua through the Reagan administration. So Equal Exchange found a loophole where we're still able to import Nicaraguan coffee by having it roasted in a different country. It then significantly changed it enough so that it became then a product of that country in Switzerland at the time. So then we were still able to import it and kind of get around that way. So now people use that loophole for bad reasons, but at the time we were using it for good reasons. So that's kind of just a little bit about the history. So small scale farmers is really at the core of our mission. So the fair trade label, of which even some of you may or may not be familiar with, but a lot of these labels really started out with this really, really like strict mission and just very like purist, just like small scale farmers, plantations weren't allowed. There were very high standards, right? So as the bigger players like Starbucks and all these other people wanted to start playing the game, they started watering down the standards a little bit. But all of our farmers are still certified fair trade, and it still is a really strong label. But I just want to differentiate us from like an average fair trade product, because we really are committed to small scale farmers. So that what that means is that farmers have control. They own their own land. They're not just like making a minimum price, like as a migrant worker in a field, like they actually own the land. They have, so they're organized into a democratic organization. So they have a vote, they vote on where the money can go together as a community. And they also have access to pre-harvest financing. So most people, believe it or not, I don't know if anyone can imagine a life like this. They get paid just after they give all of their product. We actually pay up front for that. So I don't know if I couldn't live off of just, getting paid once a year, which many farmers do, or depending on their harvest, sometimes twice a year. So we're actually giving them half the money up front, which is very high risk. Because how could you imagine like just living and waiting for your check just, with climate change and all these different kind of challenges that folks might have. So that's really kind of part of our mission. And also just the feeling of control, right? Like it's all about power and control. And for farmers to own their own land, it's such a big part of our mission we're not going in and telling people how to grow things, what to do. They're really smart business owners. They don't need us to tell them what to do. We're just trying to be a really fair and great partner. We're really transparent. They have an equal seat at the table. They're really just great business partners. But beyond that, we engage in a lot of non-commercial activities as well. I don't know if anyone's following what's going on with the USAID grants. So it's a new thing that's been taken, a fairly new thing that's been taken away. We're still trying to continue some of that work through a small farmer fund. And so, portion of your purchases can go to that. If you buy stuff on our website, a lot of our church partners will, kind of have a small markup, and the rest of that kind of goes back to the farmers. There's really all different kinds of ways that people can contribute. But basically what that does is helps people to do all kinds of things. People have started bands and bought trumpets with them. They've literally, built entire sugar processing mill, and our, the folks where we get our sugar for our chocolate bars are now one of the largest fair trade sugar processors in the whole world, a big success story. So really this is the core to our model. We think about it in 3 parts. So small farmers we start with because that is one of the biggest. So really we want all parts of the supply chain to feel democratic, starting with farmers. And then just to talk a little bit just about like, okay, well, that sounds great, but what does like the alternative look like? What does even it look like for the conventional supply chain? So really at the core to our mission, you can just see like the top one, of course, is us. And it really is as simple. When you buy products from us, it's farmers equal exchange you. And so we're taking basically all those steps out of it. And then that way, a higher percentage of the income can go directly back to the farmer. Even most fair trade companies will still use exporters and importers, and they do take a significant portion of the income rather than it going directly to farmers themselves. There's less than 10% on your dollar on average that goes back to farmers if you're buying something in the store. So just something to keep in mind is like the prices are often not getting directly to the farmers, who are arguably doing like a lot of this work, right? They deserve to be paid for their work. So that's just a little bit just about like what does it look like to not have an equal exchange supply chain, right? What does the conventional look like, and what is really different about us? As well, Equal Exchange is a worker-owned co-op. So also internally, we want to be organized democratically, just like our farmer partners. In fact, they inspired this in us, wanting to really be a worker co-op from the start. So everyone that works at Equal Exchange is a worker owner. So what does that mean? So everybody is a shared owner. So out of 100 people, we share in profits equally at the end of the year. They get distributed equally. It's one person, one vote. So everybody that works for Equal Exchange is voting on things, just like the founder, right? He's still there. His vote counts once, and so does mine. And so that's part of our model. I'll kind of go into a few of the more specifics on the next slide so you can see. And then pay ratios, right? So the average pay ratio, right? The Jeff Bezos of the world, like what are they making compared to the lowest paid worker, is a lot different, right? It could be hundreds or thousands of times different. So, maybe someone's making $16 an hour, and we all know he's taking home a lot more than that. And so Equal Exchange has a 1-to-5 pay ratio. So the lowest and highest paid worker can't be more than 5 times different, if that makes any sense. As well, we have a never sell out clause. So this is gonna be more relevant in a minute when I talk about the landscape of natural foods. But what does that mean? It basically means that if Equal Exchange were to ever get bought out or sell, all of our proceeds would go to a fair trade organization, and that's written in our bylaws. So basically, we wouldn't make any money from it. So a lot of times, folks are starting this really cool mission, this really cool company. And then as time goes by, they get older, they want to retire, of course, and they sell, to a General Mills or a venture capitalist who is really kind of diluting their mission and not really keeping it. So there's been this trend of people selling their company to their workers, which we love, but really we want this, basically the mission of our company to outlive us. And so we kind of take that element of like human greed out of it, just written into our bylaws from the beginning. So no one's tempted, right? And then from there, an ecosystem of alternative traders. So this work can feel lonely at times. So we've tried to connect with other organizations in Europe and in Canada. La Siembra, we work with them on our chocolate supply chains a lot. They've now joined in with us, as well as Equal Exchange UK does a lot of our manufacturing. So especially as like these bigger kind of companies start to control more of our food system, we want to kind of protect ourselves a little bit and, move further along the supply chain. So if you can imagine, like in the case of coffee, where we have the direct relationships with the farmers that's coming directly to us, like on a boat, we are taking it and doing all the quality control, which Phoebe was able to see at the roaster tour that we met at. And then we are roasting it ourselves. So we have all the control, right? And then we're literally shipping it, we're packaging it with our packaging, and we're sending it to you. So that's like what full control of a supply chain looks like. Obviously, all of our supply chains can't look like that because we can't do all parts of it, but we would of course love to. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna just like do a quick pause here, maybe not a super long one, but just like, it's kind of, our model's like really different. And like, sometimes people like just have questions about this part before I delve into like, just, hey, what's the larger landscape in which, like in the food system that we're kind of placed in. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I just wanted to open it up just for a sec.
I am curious if you could just tell us, from your personal experience, how do you like working in a worker-owned? Do you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, or is it liberating, or sometimes both?
Yeah, so I will say, so yeah, of course, like with anything that there's like good and bad with anything, right? Yin and yang, whatever it is. But I would say like it's just the way that you think about coming to work, right? So if you're a part owner, you're literally thinking about it in a different way, and the way you come to work is different. You want to shut the lights off when you leave the room, just like that, if you were just kind of clocking in and out for a corporate job, you just kind of feel less connected. I definitely don't feel like we have so many people that work at Equal Exchange who have been doing this work for like 20, 30 years, but like also a lot of younger energy too. So I definitely think you never really feel alone, because you literally have like 100 other worker owners. And actually folks just, democracy moves slow, like real democracy moves really slow. So the one of the challenges I would say is like, just, it takes a really long time to like go around and listen to everyone's opinion, but we still think it's important that you should do it. So yeah, it's definitely not always efficient, but it definitely makes you feel, like you're a part of something bigger, more connected. And yeah, so hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Does. And I do see that Sharon wrote to, do you provide assistance to first-time farmers?
So what a part of our model that I didn't go super deep into, but is long-term partnerships. So really, we do offer and try to help folks who are just starting up. But at this point, we need more demand for fair trade, to be honest. And so we're going to first always take care of the people that have been with us for 20 years. Like these are, development doesn't happen overnight. And like, so some of our partnerships we've had for 20 or 30 years. I would say if the demand was in a place where it would be a new farmer that we would want to work with, absolutely, we would try to connect them with different resources. Capital is a big thing. We work with Root Capital, sometimes out of Cambridge. They're an alternative investment organization, as well as RSF in San Francisco. That capital is a big thing, just like having the resources to kind of start up. But yeah, I would say that we don't honestly enter into a lot of new partnerships. We're really just trying to nurture the ones that we already have. And that's just the nature of our market, is just that it's a little bit smaller than, just plain organic coffee, for instance, right? So just to like put things in perspective, 3% of Starbucks has fair trade certification for coffee. Like we're not even touching that 3%, right? So just to give you like an idea of like the scale. So we're kind of like not small, not big, but like we're right in the middle. So it makes things like a bit awkward, but we would love it if we had the problem of like, you know, wanting to have the space for all these new people. But just to be honest, that we're just nurturing our partnerships that we already have and really just trying to, you know, take care of them, especially with COVID, right? Everybody experienced all the prices that go up there. So maybe with that, I'll transition to just like who owns our food, right? So I kind of talked about, hey, this is what Equal Exchange's model looks like. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, hey, what is the landscape for our food system? How is it different from when Equal Exchange started in 1986? Because a lot has changed. So this chart could be a lot, but this is a chart that was made by Phil Howard out of Michigan State University. He literally goes around to all the different grocery stores. He takes note of all of the different products on the shelves and he looks into the ownership schemes behind them. And so a lot of us might not think about this, right? But basically all of these yellow circles represent the larger multinational food company that owns the smaller forward-facing independent brands. So when we walk through a grocery store, right, we are like overwhelmed with all of the different choices that we have. Like, I don't know how you even choose, like, what flavor of this do I want, right? Like that, there's so many different choices. But the reality is actually that 90% of all of the beverages that we consume in the United States is owned by just 3 companies, right? So you have these bigger companies that are putting this like label on the outside, but actually it's really the same owner. So, you know, Honest Tea, that's also a fair trade brand, quote unquote, is owned by Coca-Cola, right? Clorox Bleach owns Burt's Bees, the, you know, the chapstick. Ben and Jerry's is owned by Unilever, a really big food company. So basically, we wouldn't like necessarily guess that if we were just to look at the label. We're like, oh, but Burt's Bees started in Maine, didn't it? Like you know, a couple that got together and was, you know, getting the beeswax and making this chapstick. Yes, it did start that way, but a lot of times they don't want to advertise that it's now owned by Clorox Bleach because we would probably question what are we putting on our lips, right? Like we would start to think about that in a different way. So to just kind of break this chart down a little bit, I have this next slide that is meant to be interactive. So please, you know, tell me what you think. Which of these products that you see on the screen do you think is not owned by General Mills? I actually can't see the chat. Hold on.
Oh, that's okay. Let's see. Is there
Sorry.
not? Laura says, is there none? Is it a trick question?
It is a trick question, but there is one.
Ah,
So you're on the right track for your thinking there.
well, there's only one that is not.
Yes, it's just one.
Larabar?
So that's kind of the
Someone
point,
says
right? Like you
Larabar.
see all, yeah, it's not Larabar. Good. That's a good guess though. More recently bought out. So that's a good guess. But yeah, so like we just kind of like design this because this could be like in your cart, right? Like you could have this like in your basket, all of these different things, and it's only one company that owns it, right? So what is the problem? Well, you know, also what's the problem if just one company is controlling all of these things that we're consuming, right? It's this kind of inequality and power and control. Um, so yeah, I can. Oh,
Somebody said Cascadian Farm.
no, that's a good
Kale
guess
chips.
too, though.
Greg says kale chips.
Yeah, close, but it's actually Raisin Bran, believe it or not. I know
What?
it's because it's owned by Kellogg, so it was a trick question
Oh,
because
you
they're
crossed
another
off the
giant.
top. I see the G's of Kellogg hanging out. All right.
Yeah, right. We cut that off on purpose so that you wouldn't see. But yeah, so they're like another giant company, and you could make a chart just like this with them being the owner. So yeah, it was kind of a trick question, but it's just to prove a point, right? That you know, we have basically, you know, just a few companies controlling most of the products that we consume in the grocery store, and most people are going to, you know, so I know folks are kind of from all over. So even we'll talk about that in a minute because you'll all probably resonate with different kind of supermarket chains and things like that. So next, consolidation is really reaching every industry, right? So we talked about the products on the shelves. So these are talking now about the different types of seeds in the ground that we're planting. So the inputs for the farmers. So this is a chart from National Geographic. We could probably make a new one and it might even be more depressing. But if you look like less than 100 years, there used to be hundreds and hundreds of varietals of lettuce, and now there's just 36, right? So what is
Danielle, I'm not sure if you can go full screen because it is really to see, like we do see the border. So I'm on this slide in particular.
did it get bigger now?
No, not really, but that's
Damn.
okay. Oh, it's getting bigger. It got a little
Did it
bigger.
get bigger? Are you able
Yeah.
to see it
Can you
more?
do that again? A little bit. That's
I
okay. You can send us links to the.
I have it on full screen. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. It just
Okay,
has the
that's okay.
black
That's
and
okay.
the outside. But yeah, I can share this presentation and like
Yeah.
I'm happy for
Awesome.
anyone to use it or do whatever they'd like with it. We want this information to get out there, so we're pretty laissez-faire with our but yeah, so basically, if you know, I can just like kind of say what it is that I'm seeing and describe it to you. But so in 1903, there were 544 different types of cabbage that we used to consume, and now there's just 28, right? So what does that mean for our health, for our nutrition, when, you know, for our microbiome? It's good for us to be eating all different types of things, right? It enriches us nutritionally. What does it mean for the soil and not producing things through regenerative agriculture, which probably many of you have heard of? You're just having like things in these like large rows and it's just in a very extractive system. And, you know, often trees are cut down in order to grow a lot of these products. They're not engaging in, you know, crop rotation. And these are products, these are, you know, you walk into a store, they're not growing things that are like, hey, this is the most nutritional product for you. They're growing things that will make them the most money. And it's not always the same. So it might be a product, hey, this tomato might be less nutritious, but it lasts longer on a shelf. It's going to make me more money, right? It gets bigger and people think bigger is better. So it's getting bigger and it's lasting longer, right? So those are the things that folks are valuing. And that's why some of these other seeds maybe have gone away because they don't fit our capitalist model, which nature really doesn't care about. So if we go to, so that's just seeds. So now we're going to go to retail, right? So we talked about the seeds in the ground. We talked about the products on the shelves. These are now the stores themselves, right? So even the stores that you're actually buying things are consolidated, right? So so how are you foreseeing this chart? This is a little bigger, right? You able to see?
Yeah,
So
definitely better.
So we long need to update this. I think this might be even the same chart that you looked at, Phoebe, but we made this ourselves. So it's like a homemade chart. But Safeway and Albertsons have now merged. So all of those would be together now. So every square represents 1 billion in food dollars. And can anyone take a guess, you know, what the squares in the bottom right-hand corner are? There's 2 red squares and 1 green square. So if anyone wants to take a guess on anything, I'll take it.
Non-commercial.
Oh, I know. I have to take the acronym out of there.
Yeah, I saw it. Non-commercial grower.
So it's National Co-op Grocers, so any
Okay.
food co-op, right? So those 2 red squares are any food co-op, but I don't have the green one labeled, so you can still guess on that one. I can see the chart now, or sorry, I can see the chat too. So if folks want to type it into the chat too, if you have a guess. So yeah, basically, yes. Oh my goodness. Was that Phyllis? Phyllis, you were the first person to ever guess that. So please congratulate yourself. No one has ever guessed that before. Yes, National Food Cooperative for sure.
It's
okay.
because I hang out at one every Saturday morning.
Right. You have to be a goer of farmers markets to have them top of mind for sure. And I feel like this is the crowd. So yeah, basically this chart is just to display, yeah, how you know, how much control. We could do another chart with Walmart and it would be very depressing because they're really taking over rural areas. Then oftentimes people don't have an option to shop at a different store. So I have a farm stand, but it's seasonal. I live in New England because of like the climate that I live in, right? And so I'm always shopping there until literally the last day that they close in December, which I'm really lucky that they're open that long. But yes, on the other months of the year, I have to go to Shaw's, which is owned by Albertsons and now Safeway. So yes, what is it? You know, Whole Foods, here you can see them in food dollars. They're really newer to this game, right? When you think about Amazon buying them. So Amazon is really new to the food game, but obviously we can see how they have been changing it. And this isn't displayed on the chart here, but what is really happening is they're not just controlling the stores, but they're also controlling the distribution. So one of the big reasons that Amazon bought Whole Foods is because it then gave them access to 80% of the population. So what does it mean when you have that much control? It's not good, right? So you have vertical and horizontal integration. So anyway, I am going to move on to what can we do, right? Like this is not an ideal situation. Like where do we fit in as consumers? What can we do to, you know, make choices in support of a more independent food system. So Equal Exchange has an organizing network, which is my job. And what we do is we do events like this where we educate people on where their food comes from and all the different kinds of ways. Sometimes we dig deep into chocolate. You can do a chocolate tasting with us. But a lot of times we're doing presentations like this. So staying educated is really, really important. Knowing what you're buying, right? You're voting with your dollar. To really take, you know, your money and place it into things that you really have value. It does actually truly matter. That is something that matters. Taking action. So at times we do engage and help folks to take action in support of a more independent food system. You can submit public comment, like actually, we don't want monopolies. We don't want any more companies to be allowed to buy up these smaller independents after a certain scale or size. This should, you know, they shouldn't be allowed to anymore, right? And antitrust laws should be enforced. So we've done different campaigns such as that, or in collaboration with Oxfam around supply chains and being held accountable to the human rights abuses happening along your supply chains. So we've done and helped in different campaigns. So you can take action. You can join a cooperative. You can join a food cooperative. They need more people, right? If you happen to be lucky enough to have one nearby to you, I definitely recommend joining one. They're really great. And join a community like Equal Exchange, right? We're doing events all the time. That's where I met Phoebe. That's why I'm here today. You know, a lot of people in our community have like expressed that they don't feel alone, right? These are people that are like-minded and they're all really trying to, you know, work towards the same thing. So with that, I do have like a QR code, but right now we have our chocolate tastings up on our event page. You can still join if they're really, really fun. I'm going to be doing one of them. It's going deep into kind of, hey, where does your chocolate come from? So, and it's also fun. We get to taste and you get to learn how to taste chocolate. And yeah, it's really fun. So those are some fun events. We just did one on tariffs. So you guys missed that one. That was a juicy one, but
Yeah.
we do have a really fun
and there's already
podcast.
a request for a link to that. So if you do know of the link to that, people are already asking. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Tariffs and chocolate. I mean, it depends. I think you need to eat chocolate while you talk about tariffs.
Yeah, I think you need to eat chocolate while you talk about this stuff. It'll just make you feel happier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much, Danielle. I hope I am really glad that we've recorded this because if you're like me, I gained so much more the second time around hearing Danielle speak than I did the first time. But again, it just starts to crack open your mind to, right, we know that there are injustices out there, but when you know more about the systems that cause it, maybe we can do more about it. When I recognize that this is the end of the day for most people, so I don't want to lay a lot on you, but I would like us to give some time to look at one another and just ask one another. I tried to break people out into your regions, but people didn't show up equally according to your regions. Surprise, surprise. I would love it if Evie, I don't know. Are you around? Are you with kids? Are you still here?
Here, yes, the kids
Yay!
are around, but I am here, and
Hi, running around. Evie,
Thank
if you just wanted to say the question that you asked us last time when we got together, because you were about to gather as World Hunger leaders. Oh, now you're on mute again, which is okay. If you could ask that question again as you did, do you remember it, Evie? Because
I do. We
Okay.
had focused. We focused our gathering, the ELCA World Hunger Leadership Gathering, around Micah 6. What does the Lord require of you? Or what does God require of you to be more inclusive, but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And the question I had asked was, what would Micah be barking about for us in these times? What would Micah be protesting and holding us accountable for as a prophet? So what would that prophetic voice look like?
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for fitting that in, Evie. And hi, everybody, to your family. Oh, look, Gabrielle has it. Ta-da.
Yep, there it is. Oh, Gabrielle, you're so awesome. I love it.
Yay. So it is a lot to think about, but you've thought about it before. Hopefully we're all supposed to keep thinking about it in our daily lives. I'm going to open up all the rooms unless there are questions, and I will obviously pause recording. I'm going to pause anyway, so. Okay. So welcome back. I am really, one of the things that, Meg was just talking about is the idea of hearing a little bit about what everybody else is doing. And I hope that lifted some spirits as well, and maybe started your gears turning, even if you didn't figure out exactly how everyone is doing it. I also want to say that I would like to follow up with Christine Moffat, our advocacy person, to help us connect the dots between what we just learned tonight and what the Farm Bill is up to, and like what kind of other either public policy issues locally or globally that we can be more aware of. And I know you all do that, especially as World Hunger leaders all the time as well, but yeah, trying to, again, merge things. So any particular things that people got excited about in their breakout groups that you want to make sure other breakout groups hear about? Feel free to unmute or write in the chat. Nothing? You're going to keep it all a secret?
I'll jump in and say
Alex,
that,
hi.
hey, I'll jump in and say that we lamented a little bit, and then we moved to the problem solving and what has worked. And one cool thing we talked about was a very simple thing that pretty much anybody can do in times like these is I'll drop something in the chat here. Red cards, tarjetas rojas. So this is something that congregations can download and make just to help our brothers and sisters who are I'm trying not to use emotional language, but who are under duress and experiencing pressure from ICE, and how we can help there. So
It's
yeah.
okay to use emotional language. It's emotional. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did talk about that too. So yeah, finding the hope is important.
And loving mercy is lamenting.
Mhm.
I think so. I think you
Yeah, I
did
put
that.
the link in the chat for Kimberly's question. I didn't want to take up too much space, but feel free to click on it and learn about how congregations and groups of people can help. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
I just wanted to comment on the idea of oh, Micah, walk humbly. Is that the phrase?
Yes.
Act humbly.
Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly, or
walk
move.
humbly. Walking humbly doesn't necessarily mean not acting boldly or being bold. Sometimes we need to be a little bit loud, a little bit outspoken. You can do both. We can do both. And I think it's acceptable to do both. And I think it's necessary. I'm trying to figure out how to be a little louder. I'm loud. I have a reputation for loudness. But what I mean is boldness in principle. And I'm trying to find my way in subtle ways, where not to take up the oxygen in the room, not to be the spectacle. So to figure out the balance between humility and bold action, I guess.
Any other quick thoughts before we thankfully have a closing prayer? And Danielle, I thank you so much for adding even more links. Excellent. You all at Equal Exchange have an amazing group of resources also that you can keep digging into. And on our follow-up, we always make a follow-up post and we will add those to it. This is recorded. So, right, I did keep recording the next time. Okay, good. We will have that within the day or so that you can share it with other people. But also if you wanted to bring up this conversation and all these ideas, maybe at coffee hour, just jump right ahead to Danielle's presentation to say, hey, is everybody aware of this or thought of it? I just thank you so much, Danielle, for spending the time with us today and doing the work that you've done. And I hope you stay there for another nine years or so. Just thank you so much for joining us and part of our ministry work today. And thank you all from various networks and corners of the nation and planet. I know we have somebody on here today from Uganda. Welcome. I'm very grateful too that Sister Phyllis Cox will be closing us in prayer this evening. Thank you. Over to you, Phyllis. You're muted though. I hope we can hear you. There we go.
On that note, I'm going to use the words of Desmond Tutu. Creator God, you have called us to be keepers of your earth. Through greed, we have established an economy that destroys the web of life. We have changed our climate and we drown in despair. Let oceans of justice flow. May we learn to sustain and renew the life of our Mother Earth. We stand with Indigenous people worldwide who are demanding restoration of their ancestral lands. We pray for our leaders, custodians of Mother Earth, that they may negotiate with wisdom and fairness. May they act with compassion and courage and lead us into the path of justice for the sake of our children and our children's children. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Phyllis. We will follow up with messages and some information about our gathering in North Carolina in January. We would love to have everybody that's on this call there to at least be able to see you in person and give hugs. Maybe we could all bring our pets too. I don't know if the camp likes that, but we'll give it a shot. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.